Peace and long life to you.
Live long and prosper.
We are back, Brian and Dan, here on Talking Trek. No theme music today because we're talking starships. And a starship, even though some of them have some 12-minute long introductory musical sequences, they don't necessarily need a theme song. But a starship is very much a character in the Star Trek universe. And we want to know about your favorite ships as well. Some of you have already been responding. For instance, someone said the USS Witch of Endor, Visionary class, and I'm going to pull a picture of that up in a little bit. And that is apparently just a fan creation, but I'll show that picture. It's a reverse image as we move ahead in the show. But Brian, do you have a particular favorite starship before we really get going?
Oh, my favorite. Gosh, you know, if you're going to hold my feet to the fire, what you can't see is what I'm looking at here on my desktop is the Enterprise refit.
Oh.
I do love. In fact, you can see the refit. She's right there behind me. Oh, this thumb right there. I have the Eagle Moss XL version of her, and so pretty. I remember when I got the Hallmark ornament, I was just so blown away. So I love these Eagle Moss ships, and I love especially the XL versions. But yeah, the refit. What's yours?
The Big D is my favorite. Enterprise D is my absolute favorite. I have my handy dandy model right here with me from 1987. I got this at a flea market last year, back when flea markets were still such things that you can go to without fear.
Wow. Oh, you want to see what I have from right around that era, like 88? I'm not sure exactly what year they came out. Let me pull it off my shelf right here. Hold on. It's on the top shelf. I have to get a stand for her because they didn't come with stands back then.
No, this definitely did not. This was meant to be a toy. Oh my gosh, I had that.
The Playmates.
Yes, with the two or three buttons on the back.
Yeah, it's four buttons across the back ridge there.
Oh yeah. Do you have batteries in it?
No. No, because they would probably explode because I don't usually touch them. So it's up on my shelf. It's been in the closet for years. In fact, gosh, I gave it to my mother for my young nephew to play with years and years and years ago. And now he's in his 20s and doesn't play with those kinds of things anymore.
What is wrong with that boy?
I got it back, but we had lost the nacelles. So I was like, no big deal. I just put it in a closet and left it there. And then one day I went to my mother's to visit, and she says, "Oh, look what I found!" And both nacelles.
That's amazing. I saw at a Star Trek convention I went to back in February, Farpoint down in Baltimore. They had, I'm assuming the Playmates version, but the Enterprise D Dreadnought from All Good Things.
Oh boy.
I had that, and it was great. I loved it. It was like parts of it were like, a little fatter than it was like ordinarily supposed to be, just in order to fit the extra parts in. But it would operate kind of like a transformer with the back shell popping open, bring out that third nacelle. It was freaking sweet. And then there were clip-on parts for it. Bring out those little extra phaser arrays. Oh, so sweet. But we're gonna start talking about the one that started it all, and that is the USS Enterprise NCC 1701. Let me get this.
Don't ever steal my debit card.
Oh no, I will never steal your debit card. Don't worry. I will never do that because I'm not that cruel of a person. But there she is, Thing of Beauty. Oh. And we can talk about the stats for that one.
430 crew. We know that.
Yep. Under Pike, I think it had 200 some people, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember hearing that. Now that you mention it, I wonder why that is. I wonder if we're going to see if that maybe that was original stats in the very first pilot. And
that is a great question. And then just Roddenberry upping it. Now this isn't quite the look that we had in the cage. This is a little bit later on throughout the run of most of the original series. Like the cage, remember the nacelles had that little needle coming out from
right.
the front.
Some of the I can see this one looks like it has a little ball on the back of the nacelle.
As opposed to the vents.
Some don't.
Yeah. I mean, like season 3 definitely have the vents on it, I believe. But okay, here we go.
But I fell in love with that ship.
Oh, it is.
I had the blueprints that came in the little vinyl sleeve that opened up. They were like maybe 10, 8 inches tall, but like 2 feet wide. Did you ever see those?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I gave them away, believe it or not, because I was just so tired of carrying stuff around.
Oh,
yeah, I gave a lot of stuff away. I know, I'm insane. But yeah, I remember one time I carefully traced the Enterprise, and then I was going to trace it onto a piece of plywood and use my father's jigsaw and cut out the ship, and I was going to paint it, and I had all these grand dreams. But then I realized that I was not crafty. And that dream died. But this was before you could get ships. I mean, long before Playmates came out with these, and now of course Eagle Moss and
Well, the Eagle Moss Star Trek ships collections are a thing of beauty.
Oh, they're humongous too. They have like it seems anyway, every visiting alien, every shuttle, you name it, they have it. The Krenim time ship from Voyager. Oh my God, just everything. I think they even have the probe from the Catan from Inner Light.
Oh, wow.
I'll have to double check that one. I thought I remember seeing it. I could be confusing it with another ship because they reuse so many parts. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Susan, I'm with you.
let me bring Susan's comment. I'm quickly pulling up the other ships real quick. The 1701 refit though, yeah. Slash Enterprise A, and I'm gonna just have the same photo in for both of them.
Mm-hmm. It's not heresy. It's not heresy because I'm with you. I mean, and I know hi Rachel. I know
hey Rachel.
One of my buddies who I would love to have guest host with us sometime, Tom.
Tom.
A walking encyclopedia of knowledge for everything, but especially Star Trek, of course. But he and I agree. The refit, she's the one.
It is a gorgeous ship. That's the one. I mean, we can go into that one right now here.
Let's see it.
Let's see the refit. There we go. Now that's Wrath of Khan right there, a Wrath of Khan shot. So you're actually, I'm sorry, no, Star Trek 6 because it has the big torpedo hit on it, scoring on the saucer right there. But the Wrath of Khan era, Enterprise A, and also 1701 refit redesign. That is just a thing of beauty. I feel that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I remember sitting in the theater in 1979, and I was 10 years old for the motion picture. And when they had that 12-minute scene, of the introduction, or should I say the reintroduction of the Enterprise, but in the refit version, I still watch it today. In fact,
it's a beautiful piece of cinematography, and it has that Alexander Courage score. I mean, it's amazing.
It's there are some fan CGI redos. Fan films where they redo that scene, and oh my God, it's just it's just so amazing. It's just so amazing. It is.
Yeah.
She is a thing of beauty.
And Susan, you're not wrong. Now, the Enterprise refit and also Enterprise A, I feel is when they made them look somehow more real. Because just jumping back to the 70s, to the 60s real quick, it looked neat, and it was certainly a different type of starship than we'd ever seen before. But it looked, like a toy to an extent. It looked like a model. But then this looked more real and looked more actual, in service by a quasi-militaristic organization.
I think the 60s version still, even though, like you said, like nothing we'd ever seen before, still had the feeling of a science fiction television show. Soft,
absolutely
weird bubbles and stuff on it. And even though it was a great design and well thought out with the warp nacelles and what have you, it still kind of had that feeling where the refit just brings it to a whole new level. Like you said, it gives it more of a feeling of realism.
And they did things on it. And for that realism, we're going to zoom in on this for a moment. Hopefully we'll be able to see it a little bit. You can see the hull plating, which is something you could not see on the original series. You can see individual hull plates, giving it what I think they call it the Aztecing.
Yes.
For it. And this was the first time it was done. I think they'd done it a little bit in Battlestar Galactica, the TV series beforehand. But on Star Trek, this was the first time we had really seen that. It was the first time we'd seen anything like that with a big budget. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then it's the perfect ship going with the Wrath of Khan era uniforms. The very formal militaristic uniform, not the space pajamas. And not the weird onesies that they were wearing for the motion picture.
Ugh.
Although I liked Kirk's Admiral uniform.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That one was nice.
It was nice. Just as a quick side note, it was nice to see them show that transition in Star Trek Continues on their last episode, where Rick came out in that new uniform, and it looked great. It was a nice nod to that, and it made me remember how much I actually loved the Admiral's uniform. But yeah, you're right. The ones
on that, I loved the joke that they made on Star Trek Continues. I think an episode before that with, that the new uniform, never going to see me in that.
Right. Well,
yeah.
So another iteration.
And Susan points out also, before Trek, most starships were rockets or flying saucers. And this incorporates both.
Yeah, for sure. I think they kind of paid homage to that with that Matt Groening series,
Futurama.
Futurama, thank you. Duh. With that style of ship, it was a very Buck Rogers-y kind of feeling to it.
Yes, very much. Well, that takes us into the Enterprise B, and I'm going with this look of it as opposed to an extended view because it is the Excelsior class. So Enterprise and Enterprise A are both Constitution class, and Constitution class and the Constitution refit. And then the Enterprise B, which is an Excelsior class starship, they say it can have trans-warp drive. And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
Now,
it has that fun little fin coming out from the side.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's
why I wanted to show the front view.
That's the major difference between that and the original Excelsior.
Yeah, but neat looking starships. Not Excelsior class, not my favorite.
I remember hating it when I was a kid, but I think it was almost like it was a personification of Captain Styles, who was also kind of a prick. So we didn't like
Captain Styles.
Like him, we didn't like his ship. So maybe it was like that on purpose. Scotty didn't like being there, but I've come to love her. I've come to love the Excelsior and the Excelsior class. Although I don't think we've ever seen another one with the flare like this.
No, that was
Next Generation.
No, because it was done purely for Star Trek Generations, and then they largely, I believe, retired the Excelsior models from use in Deep Space Nine, and then we never, of course, see them in Voyager because they're out in the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
But Susan just called it the minivan of Starfleet. You're not wrong. It's always what would come up to dock with the Enterprise D when it's like, oh, we're having new ambassador joining us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a shame after yesterday's Enterprise that they didn't use more of the ambassador class.
Which, let's do that. The ambassador class. Oh, see,
I have one of those too.
I
don't
said,
have a B. I know you can't see my shelf behind me worth a hill, but I broke out my ships on that little shelf back there instead of my Indiana Jones paraphernalia.
It's great.
And though I don't have a B or an Excelsior, I do go right to the C and then duck my head.
Yeah. So Enterprise C is Enterprise A used to be my favorite when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Enterprise D has become my favorite probably just because of nostalgia. But Enterprise C is a very close second. That ambassador class, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous combination of where the starships had come from and where we saw where they went with the Enterprise D, with the Galaxy class. It's a gorgeous combination of styles that just beautifully, beautifully works.
They could have used this instead of the Galaxy class for next generation.
Yes.
And I would have been perfectly happy.
Well, because the Galaxy class, they was always critiqued for one reason or another. It's a hotel in space. Mm-hmm. It is ungainly with that crazy swan neck, whereas this still has the thick little neck right there.
Mm.
But wouldn't you have loved to see more of this in the movies or goodness?
It's my hope that someday we will get, we keep doing these prequels and we go before Kirk and we keep seeing, that kind of time frame or Enterprise. Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about the NX-01. For shame.
Oh, do we need to talk about the NX-01? I mean, I'll bring it up, but
honestly, I prefer the refit, which never got screen time. But yeah. So,
didn't the NX-01 refit get screen time in Star Trek Beyond? Wasn't that the refit version?
No. You mean the Franklin?
Oh. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's what it was.
No, that was not a refit version. I don't know what class ship that was, but it was not the same class as the Enterprise.
Oh, okay. Well, let me grab the NX-01 here, put it up. So give me just half a tick, and I will have the NX-01 up here for you.
Susan says she loves the NX-01. I know I'm cheating because you haven't put her comment up on the screen.
Oh yeah, but I'll bring her. I'll bring her comment up here in just a moment. Susan, you love the NX-01. I mean, I'm not going to disparage that choice at all. I'm just mystified by it. But
quick funny story. My mother is the reason I love Star Trek.
Okay.
I bought a camper that I use at the fair for staying overnight on the weekends that I'm there. I'm usually there from, usually either Thursday night through the weekend or Friday morning through the weekend. So I bought this camper. My mother helped me recondition it and get it all spruced up and fixed up. I named it the USS Sufficient because that's what she is. But my mom surprised me by decorating the inside with some pictures of Star Trek, the captains, and a few other things. And she put a picture of the Enterprise on the wall, and it was that picture you just showed of the NX-01.
Oh, very nice. I mean,
and because even though
I don't hate it, I just don't love it.
She didn't realize that was not Kirk's Enterprise because she's just not that detail oriented about Star Trek like I am. So when she looked up on the web for Enterprise, that's what popped up. She printed it and put it in a frame and put it up on the wall.
That's very sweet. My mother also is the big reason I love Star Trek. My dad is who introduced me to it, but my mom is the one who enabled the fandom and obsession. She would take me to Star Trek conventions back when they were an all-the-time occurrence when I was a kid, when there were many little cons happening before the real big con expos started happening. And she would make me start fleet costumes. She made me a season 1 and 2 Next Generation jumpsuit because that was one of the simplicity patterns at Joann Fabrics that you could get. She made me a Deep Space Nine / Voyager uniform. She did it by using a black hoodie and then took a gold sweatshirt because I loved O'Brien and cut the shoulders off the gold sweatshirt. Did the same thing with the black hoodie, made sure it all matched up, put it together. It was a zip up, got me a purple mock turtleneck.
No.
And we went.
Have this uniform?
No, I don't have that anymore. But that's one reason I have the Picard again. This and one reason I do love having like the various Star Trek jackets because it was nifty enough for me to just wear it out in the world with people. And it wasn't like, oh, you're in a costume. It was nice Star Trek jacket. It's like, yeah, it is. You're darn right. You're darn tootin'. So.
All right. Well, we are quickly running out of time here, so let's continue on our starship.
But right, so let's. Oh, this is a chart we can look at in a little bit. But the Enterprise D1701D Galaxy class ship of the line.
So starship
average cruising speed warp 7, emergent speed warp 9.6 for 12 hours.
I'm sure my wife is laughing at us in the background in the kitchen. So, true story. When Next Generation came out in 1987, I hated it.
A lot of people did.
Yep, I hated it. I did not like it. I thought it looked like that ship from Battle of the Stars with the actor who played John Boy from the Waltons.
Oh, okay.
It was terrible. I could not stand this ship. But like with everybody else, it grew on me.
Oh, well, I was about 6, and I was either exiting kindergarten or entering 1st grade when this ship came out.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was in high school.
There you have it. High school students are historically angry and bitter.
Right.
But I loved this ship from moment 1. I loved it. And they made it the floating hotel in space. And that, like, first off, that like kind of went with the 80s ethic and aesthetic of like, oh, we can travel everywhere in luxury, and kind of went along with Golden Girls to an extent because of all the soft Miami colors that were in the ship at first.
Am I crazy, or does this picture you're showing not look quite right?
It doesn't look quite right. But it is a CGI picture of the Enterprise.
So speaking of
that, I pulled down
that moment when they showed the Enterprise D at the very beginning of Picard. Oh my gosh!
Looked so beautiful. Did not look CGI. Looked like the physical model.
She looked amazing. It was. I remember being almost moved to tears.
I cried. I've watched that bit, and the thing is, why not have a Galaxy? This is a thing I'm gonna forever come back to in Picard. I liked Picard quite a lot. I have so many gripes. Many of you know about them. If you watched last week with special guest host Jim Teasdale, we went over a lot of my gripes with Picard. But why not have a Galaxy class show up with Riker, or Riker's just on a Galaxy class? It's like it's big. It'll hurt you. Just
I'm hoping that the producers heard everyone and will maybe change some of that in season 2. I've heard there will be more Starfleet. So,
well, that'll be neat.
I'm not a fan of the last.
I didn't notice there was a weird little thumbnail on this picture, but the Enterprise E.
What is that?
I have no idea. I just pulled this off the internet. That's weird.
Someone's cartoon face.
Dear God. All right, but yeah, who is that guy? That is
I don't know.
That is odd. But right over the E, that's really fun. I didn't see it when I was grabbing the thumbnail. But Sovereign class starship.
I love it.
You do?
I do.
It reminds me a lot of the Excelsior era. for just how stretched out it is.
See, to me, it looks like a very natural progression of the TOS Enterprise.
Okay, I can see that. But for me, like I can see it coming from the TOS era if we had completely bypassed the C and the D, if we had bypassed Ambassador class and Galaxy class. But Sovereign class, or rather it did an end run around them, because Sovereign class, yes, like the first time we see it in action is in Star Trek First Contact when they're in battle against the Borg. So it is more of a battleship.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we see it again in Star Trek Insurrection, when Picard says, does anybody remember when we used to be explorers complaining about finding allies who weren't really ready to fight the Dominion? But it feels like, especially in the time period it came out, when I was like in my most idealistic, I guess, and bitter, it felt like it went against the ethos of Star Trek. It's a battleship. It's not a ship of peace. Like Guinan says when we actually meet the Enterprise C, she goes, "This isn't a ship of war; it's a ship of peace."
When this came out, things had changed from the mentality of the '80s. So
yeah,
and the story had changed. I mean, we were looking at the Borg. We were looking at excuse me,
the Dominion.
The Dominion War.
And
Starfleet needed more battleships, and they, as Susan commented here about being mind-boggling about having families, it looks like they decided to take the families off.
Yeah, and that was an argument Picard always made. I'm like, he got used to having children and families on board, but it's not a place for them. And yeah, you're right, Susan. The Dominion War changed Starfleet, but we're looking like in Discovery. You're in the post-Klingon War era, and then what happens relatively right after that? The Jim Kirk era of Star Trek, where it's relatively happy-go-lucky. Let's explore the universe and make out with everybody. I think that to discover strange new worlds and to make out with their inhabitants. I think that was Starfleet's credo. But this just feels like it goes against what Starfleet's about. But that's just me. But moving on in our Starship journey, let's just look at this. So up at the very top of this chart, we have the NX-01. So I don't even know what class you call that.
Good question.
Yeah, but
NX class.
The NX class, yeah. But Defiant also had an NX before it got an actual registry number too.
Well, so did Excelsior.
Yeah, you're right. It was exactly. It was the NX 2000. But you have, let's call it the NX class, not that much smaller than the Constitution class. But you go from Enterprise to so the original 1701 to the refit / 1701A, and it looks like they also lengthened the saucer section in addition to everything else.
Well, have you seen those videos where they ask the question, is it the same ship? Is the refit the same Enterprise? And show differences. So it's a question for all time. And
and that's like the thing of if you keep upgrading your old car, at what point is it no longer the same old car? It's the same question. But then you have the Enterprise B, the Excelsior class, much longer vessel. Then the Ambassador class, bigger yet. Galaxy class, freaking huge. What was it? 42 decks. And then, 42 decks it was. And then, you know why it was 42 decks?
Because it's the answer to everything, the universe.
Exactly. Whoever decided it was 42 decks back when they were creating it was a Douglas Adams fan.
I am not.
Okay. And then the Enterprise E, which has a much more slender profile. Like the side view doesn't bother me as much. The top view and the front view, I don't like it. And And then the JJ Enterprise, which is
There's certain
somehow bigger yet.
Certain angles of the front view of the E, I just love.
Okay. And
the JJ Enterprise, that's so stupid that they made it so big. Why?
Well, it's because so they could put as many escape pods and shuttles on it. And it's just like, have it be the size of it's a Constitution class starship, just in the reimagined era and alternate timeline. Have it be the size of a Constitution class starship. And because otherwise, how would that, I mean, like they showed it being constructed on Earth. How would it have gotten off the planet?
Mm-hmm.
And then in
tractor beams,
I guess, but then when we saw it hiding beneath the water in either Into Darkness or Star Trek Beyond, how did it? How are you getting it? How are you getting it down?
That was the dumbest sequence I had ever seen.
I mean, goodness. So, are you still firm on your choice of favorite Enterprise?
The refit? Oh yes, yeah.
Okay.
The refit Enterprise and the E coming in second for me.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the where to go. It's definitely the big D,
one of
followed
these.
by the C.
And we haven't even talked about Pike's new Enterprise or his new old Enterprise.
No, we haven't talked about Pike's Enterprise. We haven't talked about any of the other starships like the Reliant or the Miranda class or the Nebula class, which looks just like the Miranda class, so like the Reliant from Wrath of Khan.
Or the Jaeger class.
I'm sorry?
The Jaeger class?
The Jaeger class. Yeah, we haven't talked about any of those. We haven't talked about the Voyager or the Defiant. I mean, so there's just so many beautiful starships to talk about. But
I agree.
We can go on for a while. I mean, we can always have this conversation again. Oh yeah, and like there's just so much Trek to talk about. Soyuz class. Thank you, Susan. Soyuz class,
which is very reminiscent of the Miranda class.
It very much is. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just very small differences.
Yeah, and then the Miranda, and then the Nebula class, which is basically, let's just take this apart and do some kit smashing real quick. You have the saucer section of a D-style saucer section with the nacelles just right underneath it.
Oh, that was the Farragut at the end of Generations.
Yes, yeah, that was a fun ship, and it was kind of basically almost like just like the next generation era version of the Reliant and the Miranda class and stuff. So. But yeah, Soyuz class was a really fun ship.
Mm-hmm.
Like those. But friends, hope you had a good time watching the show today.
I did.
Yeah, go like and subscribe to us on YouTube. If we hit 100 likes, then we get to rename the channel like youtube.com/talkingtrek. So go do that. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/talkingtrekpodcast. I hope all of you out there are just being safe and living long and prospering forever and always. And when you're out in the world, wear a mask.
Oh, mine's in my truck, my Federation.
I wanted to see it. I was hoping you'd wear it today.
Oh,
I should have asked.
I'll have it for next week.
All right. Well, live long and prosper, everybody.
Good night, everybody.